Turning Point with Frank MacKay is brought to you by Atlantic Honda, New York's Auto Giant, and Herman Katz, Kanjimi and Klein, property tax attorneys and advisors.
The most interesting guests in the music industry, entertainment, art, and politics step into the studio for Turning Point with Frank MacKay. This week on Turning Point, you will hear how Frank's guest turned his childhood fondness for Saturday morning cartoons into a successful career. Maxwell Atoms is the creator of Cartoon Network's hit TV show, The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. Today, Maxwell talks about what it is like to have a hit TV show, what inspired the characters Billy and Mandy, and his goals for the future.
Welcome. Our special guest today is Maxwell Atoms. He is the creator of many a cartoon series. Is it fair to say many?
Well, I don't know how many is many, but two.
Two, okay,
Yeah.
two is many. Especially when one of them is The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, which is kind of a cult favorite. And you've done all kinds of other work. Our guest today, again, is Maxwell Atoms. Welcome, Maxwell.
Well, thank you.
We are here with a gentleman who's in a very difficult field, and a field that I think a lot of kids nowadays envy. And it's a field of animation. It's really taken a turn for, real art. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think a lot has happened in the animation industry in the last, even the last couple of years. Certainly the last 10. It's changed a lot.
Where did you study?
I studied animation at the University of the Arts in Philadelphia.
Is that where you're from originally?
No, I grew up in Colorado, and mostly that was just getting away from Colorado.
How did you, well, the guys from South Park didn't get away from Colorado, right?
That's true.
And look what they're doing, and they're on Broadway and doing all kinds of things.
Right.
So what part of Colorado?
Colorado Springs. It's, sort of right in the heart of the Rocky Mountains next to NORAD, and it's an interesting mix of, like, super, right-wing people and kooky witches and...
Which one are you?
I don't feel like I really fit in anywhere there quite proper, so I think that's why
So
out here.
Colorado is a breeding ground for animators and folks that make a
I
living
guess
in
so.
animation.
Who knew?
Yeah, who
I
knew?
think it just gives people sort of a different perspective. I feel like a lot of people in animation come from CalArts and the California system, so in a way it's been good to come from somewhere else and have a different perspective.
Yeah, well, we're referring to Trey Parker and Matt Stone when we talk about the other guys from Colorado. Are they friends of yours? Do you know them?
No, I've never met them, actually.
I just assume it's this one, big clique of
Right.
animators.
It's a really small industry, so most of the people do know each other, but kids TV seems to be its own sort of little pool and features its own thing, and certainly primetime TV is a whole different thing altogether. So
It's strange to hear you say kids TV because right now it's more than that. Animation, from Seth MacFarlane's material and certainly The Simpsons and everything else. It's more than kids material now.
Animation in general it's all over the place. So
What was the first thing you remember watching animation-wise?
just about everything. I don't think my sister and I used to wake up probably before 6 o'clock in the morning and go downstairs and watch cartoons until our parents made us stop, or until the after-school special type stuff came on. So everything from the Smurfs to Space Ghost and all the old Hanna-Barbera stuff, Warner Brothers, pretty much everything that And she had her Strawberry Shortcake and My Little Pony, and I'd have to watch that from time to time. And in trade, she'd watch G.I. Joe. So
Is she in the business?
no, she's a nurse, so she took a different path.
All right, she's helping people.
Yeah,
and
she's doing real things.
Yeah. No, and you're creating zombie-like characters to torture kids. It's great. The Grim Adventures is something that kids like, adults like. I mentioned to you off mic that I know obsessed adults that just love Billy and Mandy, The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, and I think it has a flavor that's a little older than just kid stuff.
Right. Yeah, that always makes me really happy is, when you tell me stuff like that, or when I go to Comic-Con and parents come up and say that they love watching the show with their kids. So I think that always makes me the happiest, just knowing that there's a wide range of people that enjoy it.
Are you old enough to remember when Cartoon Saturday was like really Cartoon Saturday?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was the big block of 6 hours of cartoons we used to watch, so...
Not any longer, right?
No, now I think there's more animation than ever now. It's just spread across, different channels, different platforms, like everything else in entertainment. It's just everything's sort of in flux.
When did that change?
I think it all kind of started about 10 or 15 years ago when everything started to go digital and when South Park, first came out, the Christmas episode on the videotape that was sent around, we saw that, and after that that's when all the web companies started up and they all crashed, and sort of the back and forth of, well, is animation getting more viewers on TV or on the internet? And I think people are still poking around trying to figure that out.
Is it more expensive than traditional programming, animation?
No, generally it's cheaper. And, it's a blessing and a curse, because I think you get to do more, you get away with more, you get more freedom. But on the other hand, it's sort of disposable, and there's sort of an attitude where, you produce 52 episodes of something, and, once a kid gets done watching all 52, they're too old for it, and the next generation comes along. So there's not really a lot of drive behind trying to get more episodes, even if something's doing well.
Parents, were they supportive of animation?
Yeah, surprisingly, they told me years after I graduated from college that they figured I'd be moving back home as a starving artist. So at least they didn't tell me that before it all went down. So I was really lucky to have my whole family sort of supporting my dream.
What's your specialty? It's art. It's the actual artwork.
I'm lucky in that I still get to do artistic things. I still get to draw. I still get to write. So those are sort of my two primary passions, I guess, or telling stories. And
are you one more than the other, writer and artist?
It really depends, what job I'm doing. I feel like right now I'm working for Disney, and it's very much more. I'm much more of an executive than I've ever been. And again, I still get to draw and I still get to write.
How does that feel?
It's not my favorite thing. It's taken a lot of learning, but I'd like to think I've gotten better at it over the years.
You're in Colorado. Mm-hmm. You're in school there. You have aspirations like most kids or many kids have. You have thoughts about what you're going to do. How soon did you say I'm going into animation? I'm going to make cartoons?
I think I always knew I wanted to do something with art, and that was never really a question. I think it sort of crystallized into animation probably like late in high school. That was around the time Dexter's Lab and Ren and Stimpy and that sort of wave of Disney movies, Beauty and the Beast, all that stuff. So that sort of all helped convince me that's what I wanted to do.
How early did you realize that there was some kind of artistic talent more than putting things up on a kitchen refrigerator?
I really don't remember. I've just always sort of, my thing was my parents would never feel like sending me to my room was punishment, because I would always just go up there and, write and draw for hours on end anyway. So I feel like it's always something I knew I wanted to do, and I just sort of always assumed it was going to happen. And I don't think I really realized how lucky I was until long after Billy and Mandy got picked up.
Yeah, and that was certainly the key there. That's
right.
That's the back to childhood. Parents are being supportive. Well, they say at least later that they thought they were going to come in and do that.
Right.
But you went from high school to Philadelphia, and you went to the School of Visual Arts. Mm-hmm. And you came out, and you said, like many people do, they got an internship. Where was your internship?
It was through the Academy of Television Arts and Sciences, Film Roman, which is now Stars, I believe. At the time, had an internship through them. So
Stars, the television network,
right,
and they had an internship there. And you were doing what?
My first job was as an intern was on the Twisted Tales of Felix the Cat season 2. And I was lucky because I think by that point there wasn't a lot of support for the show. So basically they just had this really bare bones crew, and I got to do a little bit of everything. So if I would get done doing character designs, I'd be like, what else can I do? And they'd throw some backgrounds at me. So it really gave me a sort of an overview of the whole process, which was great at that point because, you learn animation in school, but there's not a whole lot of actual animation done in this country. So it's all these sort of different departments and different steps you have to take to prepare it for the people who actually animate it.
The artists that you were working with over there, or working under, I should say, as an intern, did you find them to be supportive, or were they more along the line of, hey, this kid could take my job at a much lower pay?
No, I think at that point, that was during the original animation boom, so everybody felt like, everything, jobs were plentiful, and the guys I was working for were really great, so I still talk to them to this day.
Friends, still friends.
Yeah.
When we come back, we will have more with Maxwell Atoms. We'll be right back.
Turning Point is brought to you by PC Wealth Management of Morgan Stanley Smith Barney and the law firm of Duffy & Duffy, protecting the victims of medical error.
Any deal, anytime. Stop shopping and come into Atlantic Honda in Bayshore and make your best offer. That's right. Forget what you see in the paper or hear on the radio and make us your best offer. Right now, new 2012 Civic LX 4-door with automatic, only $79 per month. But forget that and make us an offer. New 2012 Accord LX 4-door with automatic, only $98 per month. But you can forget that and make us your best offer. And what's even better than that? 0% financing up to 60 months. Up to $3,000 over book value for any trade. That's right. Up to $3,000 over for your trade. Any deal, anytime. Stop shopping and come to Atlantic Honda in Bayshore and make us your best offer. New 2012 Civic LX 4-door with automatic for $79 per month. Forget it. Make an offer. New 2012 Accord LX 4-doors with automatic. Only $98 per month. Forget it. Make us your best offer. Any deal, anytime. Stop shopping and come into Atlantic Honda in Bayshore and make us your best offer. 1391 Sunrise Highway in Bayshore. Member of NYAutoGiant.com or visit AtlanticHonda.com for details. 36 months, $24.95 down plus tax tags and $770 Honda destination. 12K miles per year, 15 cents thereafter with excellent credit.
Emblem Health is putting care first every day, helping members stay healthy, get well, and live better. To learn more about Emblem Health, call CAI, insurance professionals for over 50 years, at 800-427-5358 or visit emblemhealth-cai.com. That's 800-427-5358. Emblem Health, what care feels like. Coverage underwritten by Group Health Incorporated, Health Insurance Plan of Greater New York, and HIP Insurance Company of New York.
The Turning Point is brought to you by Smith DeGroat Real Estate, serving the tri-state area since 1955, and CAI, Insurance Solutions since 1961. On the web at www.conferenceny.com.
We are back with Maxwell Atoms. Let's get into a college student. And there are some folks out here listening, and they either have kids that are college students or high school students planning on getting into something that they like, something that they enjoy. And because of the attention that animation and cartoons are getting nowadays, I imagine more and more people want to do that. And more people want to create video games because that's what kids are into now. Mm-hmm. It's either, as a society, that we're becoming less interested in reality or more interested in escape. What is the fascination with kids? And you're from that generation, I'm from that generation, with the video games and with animation in general?
I sort of feel like the video games are a different sort of art that really hasn't been fully, explored yet.
Are you a gamer?
Yeah, to some degree. I go through waves where I'll be obsessed with something for months and then I won't play anything for a few more. So it's same thing with TV. Sometimes I'll just, sit in front of Netflix and get mesmerized by a whole season of something and then not watch anything else for months. So
it's almost a license to kill, right? I mean, you're doing animation for a living, so you could be Peter Pan if you like.
Yeah, that's the whole industry is sort of art school extended. We have Nerf gun fights in the hall sometimes, and there's some guys that play Dungeons and Dragons in the boardroom during lunch, and everybody has a good time, but at the same time it is a job, and everybody gets their work done. So it's a pretty amazing and liberating job at times.
Oh, it's fantastic. I mean, you tell kids all the time, find what you love to do. Mm-hmm. It's a cliche. Find what you love to do, and you'll never have to work again. Does it feel like work?
Sometimes it does. There's like anything else. There are demands and there's deadlines. So, and I'm pretty into getting things done on time. So I take that stuff seriously.
What happened with Tales of Felix the Cat? What is it called? What was the?
The Twisted Tales of Felix the Cat.
Yeah. See, I don't think I ever saw that. I mean,
Yeah, it's the first season aired, I think, as a Saturday morning or early after school cartoon.
where did it air?
I can't remember. It's been a while.
Were you credited?
Yeah.
How did that feel? Your first credits?
Good. I don't think I really. I mean, credits are 800 miles long and they go by 0.4 seconds. So I don't think I really felt a credit until Billy and Mandy probably.
When was that? What year was that?
That started. I think I pitched it 1999, maybe.
At the time, was it still Hanna-Barbera, or was it Cartoon Network?
When I started working there, yeah, it was Hanna-Barbera, and I think it had just been purchased by Cartoon Network, but it retained the name for another year or two.
So you went from the Twisted Tales of Felix the Cat to what? What was the next job after that?
After that, I was on an ill-fated primetime Blues Brothers show that never saw air. I was a character designer on that. I spent about 2 weeks on King of the Hill when it was in its infancy. And after that, I ended up on a show called Cow and Chicken over at Hanna-Barbera.
Yeah. You worked with Mike Judge.
No, I never actually saw Mike Judge. It was all sort of, he would fax over drawings, and then there were just other people going over doing their own versions of the drawings, trying to find what the style of the show was. So very much in its infancy.
Mike Judge, for those who don't know, is the creator of Beavis and Butthead and King of the Hill, two very different shows. I imagine working on King of the Hill, it was some, in your mind, a step up, right?
Yeah, again, this was all brand new to me, so I was sort of presented with these two opportunities for sort of primetime shows, and I ended up on, unfortunately, the one that didn't go anywhere.
Why was it so brief, your stint on King of the Hill?
It was just staffing. They just moved people around, so I was on there for a couple weeks until they found whoever they wanted for that position.
And then where do you end up?
Well, I ended up on the Blues Brothers.
You did? Okay,
yeah.
right. Cow and Chicken, tell us about that.
That was a show created by David Fease.
It's still on and reruns.
Yeah. And he was a great guy, so when I started out on that, he gave me a lot of helpful tips on character design and stuff like that. And I think
you also do Rocco's?
No. He may have worked on that. He did I think one of the more recent things he did was the movie Open Season.
Right.
But after working on that for about maybe a year, he seemed to like the drawings I was doing, and I did a couple revisions on storyboards, and pretty soon he just said, well, go do a storyboard. So that was my first full-on storyboard, and maybe, I think, the only one that I've ever gotten an award for, so...
What kind of award do you get?
I think it was nominated for an Annie, which is sort of like the Emmys for animation.
Yeah, that's interesting. Is it something you aspire to get, or you found out afterwards, hey, there's an award for this?
That was sort of during the time when I just didn't know what was going on, so yeah, didn't find out about that till later.
At this point, are you excited when you're going through this? Are you excited about what you're doing, or are you just kind of going with the flow? I
think by the time I found storyboarding, I think that sort of clicked in as that's what I wanted to do. I think from probably day one that I moved out here, I was pitching things, but I don't think it all really came together until, I could sit down, draw the pictures, and tell the stories through pictures that I thought, well, that's what I want to do.
Are you a student of the business? In other words, do you follow what other guys did, or did you kind of just do your own flow to it and just end up going where you did? Is there anybody you modeled your career after?
I don't think anyone specific. There were definitely, shows and cartoons that I liked and loved, and I probably, I don't know how many times I drew Porky Pig or attempted to draw Bart Simpson, who's actually very hard to draw.
Yeah, I can imagine that.
But yeah, I just sort of took, I guess, the stuff that I loved and mashed it together, see what comes out.
Cow and Chicken, did you work with Seth MacFarlane there?
He was on Johnny Bravo at the time, about 2 offices down. But yeah, I know him.
How is he? Is he a friend of yours?
His sister is actually married to one of my best friends, so I see him from time to time. He's, as you can imagine, a super busy guy, so unless it's a holiday or a special occasion, I don't see him very often.
What was he like back then?
A lot like me, probably just very quiet, very introverted, which I don't think he is anymore, and I probably am less.
Ambitious? Did you see ambition in him back then, or you?
Oh yeah, like he was another guy who was just out, always pitching stuff, always had something that he was working on.
When you see another guy like that, who else was like that you run into?
People like Craig McCracken, who at the time didn't have Powerpuff
Dexter's,
Girls.
right?
He was working on Dexter's at the time, but I feel like pretty much everybody who really dedicated themselves to doing what they wanted to do, well, I won't say everybody, but a lot of them did it. Those were the ones that ended up with, the long-lasting careers and the multiple shows.
And when you say pitching to someone, who are they pitching to? Who are you pitching to when you're pitching your show? Give me a rundown of that.
Generally, you just come up with sort of a show Bible, which for animation is a packet of paper that just sort of describes the show and who the characters are, and you'll have some pictures in there, and basically you just make an appointment with the development executive of whatever studio you want to talk to, and hope that they'll see you.
What was the first thing you pitched?
The very first thing I pitched was sort of this weird sci-fi space marine show, and I think it was just sort of too weird for the times, maybe. And I certainly didn't know, about steering things toward a particular audience. So,
Did it get picked up?
No, not at all.
Not at all. How many people did you bring it to?
3 or 4, maybe.
And who were they? You remember?
One was Sunbow Animation, who I don't think exists anymore. I don't remember individual people. I took it to Nickelodeon Cartoon Network. That was one of my first pitches over there. So,
Did it prepare you for the actual, when you actually sold something? How much did that first pitching help you?
Oh yeah, I think every time you have to sit down and do that, you learn something else. If not about what you're doing, then about the people you're pitching to. So, yeah, definitely very educational.
Well, let's talk about what didn't get picked up. All right, forget about the content of it. What about your approach to selling it, to shopping it? Was that just a fly by the seat of your pants, or did you have advice on this? Did you go in with a game plan, or did you just say, "I'm just"?
It was all at that point. It was all kind of seat of my pants. I've always been sort of an introverted person, and I think a lot of artists are. So when I came out, I wasn't Mr. Johnny Showmanship, jumping up on the table and razzle-dazzling people. And that does go like a long way in this business. If you can, shame yourself in front of people, you're going somewhere.
Right.
But for me, it was just sort of, I would come in, sort of explain what things were about, and cut on a little bit to the showmanship stuff. But by the time Billy and Mandy came along, that was a whole different situation, because the executives at Cartoon Network at one point were in Atlanta, Georgia. So, 2 time zones away, you're not getting a whole lot of FaceTime. So it was all sort of mailing things back and forth and getting notes.
And where were you at this point?
I was working at Hanna-Barbera / Cartoon Network.
In California?
Yeah.
When did it go from Hanna-Barbera to Cartoon Network?
It was sometime around 1999, 2000. I don't remember exactly, but that's when all the sort of the branding changed. I remember the pilot for Billy and Mandy still has the Hanna-Barbera end plate on it, and I think that was one of the last.
Johnny Bravo, I think, had.
Yeah. That was Johnny Bravo, Powerpuff, and all that stuff. I think that all happened about 2 years before Billy and Mandy.
Your first big break. Let's get to it when we come back, right after these messages. More with Maxwell Atoms.
Turning Point with Frank MacKay is brought to you by Atlantic Honda, New York's Auto Giant, and Herman Katz, Kanjimi and Klein, property tax attorneys and advisors.
Emblem Health is putting care first every day, helping members stay healthy, get well, and live better. To learn more about Emblem Health, call CAI, insurance professionals for over 50 years, at 800-427-5358, or visit emblemhealth-cai.com. That's 800-427-5358. Emblem Health, what care feels like. Coverage underwritten by Group Health Incorporated, Health Insurance Plan of Greater New York, and HIP Insurance Company of New York.
Turning Point is brought to you by PC Wealth Management of Morgan Stanley Smith Barney and the law firm of Duffy & Duffy, protecting the victims of medical error.
We're back with Maxwell Atoms. Maxwell, before the break, we were talking about the change from Hanna-Barbera, which we all knew growing up, and people in my generation and earlier had the Flintstones and what else? I mean, just about everything you could imagine.
Yeah. Jetsons,
Yogi
Miguel
Bear,
Gorilla,
was
you
that?
name it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a big deal. Hanna-Barbera. Did you ever get to meet the originals? You ever meet?
I did actually. They were still around working in the building when I was there. They weren't as involved as they used to be, but if there was ever a birthday, Mr. Hanna would come out, manhandle the cake. It was a good time.
What were they like? What were they like around there? I mean, they were legends, obviously legends. Were they treated like that? Were they just part of the crew? I mean, were they the bosses?
They definitely had the vibe of bosses, and at that time I was very intimidated by them. So I didn't have a lot of heart-to-hearts with them, but like I said, during birthdays and stuff, they'd loosen up, and you could talk about the old days. And
I mean, what were the old days? I mean, we're talking about animation here. So what's the sequence? I mean, how into the history of animation are you?
I know a fair amount. I think back then just things took a lot longer to make and a lot more care in a way. Everything was just very much handcrafted. If there was a background, you had to have a team of people painting it on this sort of assembly line just to get it done in time. And Hanna and Barbera were both sort of pioneers in that way, where they just really streamlined the TV process. So for a long time, they were sort of the ones that set the standard for TV animation.
Well, them and Warner Brothers, where you had Bugs Bunny and Yosemite Sam and Daffy Duck and all that.
Right.
That was
and a lot of the Warner Brothers stuff started out as theatrical shorts, so they actually could put a lot more time and work into making things look beautiful. So.
And back then, what they would, correct me if I'm wrong, they would have a crew of artists, and they'd be basically doing variations of the same artwork. Am I right?
Yeah, and they actually animated that stuff here, so you'd have to have a pretty huge team of people, just drawing all the time.
How has the process changed now?
It's changed a lot in that I don't think that there's one particular style of animation that dominates right now. Like, you got CG stuff, which is a whole different animal altogether.
Describe that. What's CG stuff?
Like the computer-generated stuff where you have somebody build the models and the characters, and other people, animate them, render it, move them around. Shows like, Kung Fu Panda and that sort of business.
We spoke just a second ago about the team of artists that it would take to put together a Flintstones or Yogi Bear or something along those lines. Nowadays, is it more one artist, or is it still a team of artists that are working on this?
Oh, you still need a team, but I feel like it's the number of people you have to have. If you want to get something done, like South Park, it's not pretty, but it is absolutely functional, and they don't need a giant team of people because it's all just these assets that they already have that they can move around. So that's how they can, pump out a show in 1 week.
Well, on something like Cow and Chicken, that's almost in between the old school and the new school. I'm sure computer animation was just really gathering hold there and really getting a handle there. How many writers, or how many artists, rather, worked on Cow and Chicken?
I would guess we had a crew of about 40 people when we were fully staffed.
And how does that differentiate from 30 years ago, the Flintstones?
I can't give exact numbers, but back then you would have had to have, a color department, which probably would have been, 10 people sitting in a room painting cells, and you would have had another bunch of people painting backgrounds, and a bunch of writers, people drawing the animation. So
significantly larger staff.
Yeah, I think so. And with a show like Fish Hooks, which is what I'm working on now, we have a great studio up in Ottawa, and they have this software which basically it's still a hand-drawn show, but they can manipulate these drawings, so you can swap out parts, you can do a lot of stuff without having to constantly be generating new assets.
You say a hand-drawn show. For folks like myself and others that are listening, the alternative to that is CG?
Yeah,
computer
but
generated?
again, Fishhooks is sort of in between where somebody actually draws these characters in different angles and different poses, but those can be further manipulated in the computer. So,
Talking about hooks for a second, how long does it take to make each episode?
it's still about 9 months from the written word to getting the finished picture done.
No kidding.
Yeah, it's time consuming, so that's another downside of animation is, it's unless you're South Park, it's really hard to be topical.
So you're working on things that people aren't going to see for almost a year,
Right.
and that's an unusual way to work, right? That's
I'm used to it by now, but yeah, as far as the entertainment industry is concerned, it's not like a lot of live action shows. They set up, they shoot the whole season in 3 weeks and they're done. So
when we come back more with Maxwell Atoms, and we'll get into some of the successful pitches, which led to Billy and Mandy and some of the other things. Maxwell Atoms when we return.
The Turning Point is brought to you by Smith DeGroat Real Estate, serving the tri-state area since 1955, and CAI, insurance solutions since 1961. On the web at www.conferenceny.com.
Any deal, anytime. Stop shopping and come into Atlantic Honda in Bayshore and make your best offer. That's right. Forget what you see in the paper or hear on the radio and make us your best offer. Right now, new 2012 Civic LX 4-door with automatic, only $79 per month. But forget that and make us an offer. New 2012 Accord LX 4-door with automatic, only $98 per month. But you can forget that and make us your best offer. And what's even better than that? 0% financing up to 60 months. Up to $3,000 over book value for any trade. That's right. Up to $3,000 over for your trade. Any deal, anytime. Stop shopping and come to Atlantic Honda in Bayshore and make us your best offer. New 2012 Civic LX 4-door with automatic for $79 per month. Forget it. Make an offer. New 2012 Accord LX 4-doors with automatic. Only $98 per month. Forget it. Make us your best offer. Any deal, anytime. Stop shopping and come into Atlantic Honda in Bayshore and make us your best offer. 1391 Sunrise Highway in Bayshore. Member of NYAutoGiant.com or visit AtlanticHonda.com for details. 36 months, $24.95 down plus tax tags and $770 Honda destination. 12K miles per year, 15 cents thereafter with excellent credit.
Emblem Health is putting care first every day, helping members stay healthy, get well, and live better. To learn more about Emblem Health, call CAI, insurance professionals for over 50 years, at 800-427-5358 or visit emblemhealth-cai.com. That's 800-427-5358. Emblem Health, what care feels like. Coverage underwritten by Group Health Incorporated, Health Insurance Plan of Greater New York, and HIP Insurance Company of New York.
Turning Point is brought to you by PC Wealth Management of Morgan Stanley Smith Barney and the law firm of Duffy and Duffy, protecting the victims of medical error.
We're back with Maxwell Atoms.
that's me.
That's him. He's a wonderful guy, and he's a very talented gentleman. And we're in his office now, and if you look around, you'll see a skeleton, and you'll see heads of skeletons and a lot of Grimm. That's your pride and joy, I imagine, right? Grimm Adventures of Billy and Mandy.
Yeah, so far.
So far, what was your success before that?
It was just working in the business. I was happy just being able to, draw and write. So
give us right before the pitch for Billy and Mandy went well, and you landed it. How many things did you pitch before that?
Oh, probably a dozen. Actually, the characters of Billy and Mandy were from a college film I did, a short film about tree panning, which is where you drill a hole in your head to let the demons out. So it was sort of this weird, gory cartoon with these little kids.
Was that an actual technique years ago, or is it?
Yeah, people actually did used to do that. So
No kidding. I hope it stopped in most parts of the world.
most parts it probably has.
So you pitched 12 shows that didn't get picked up.
Right.
Did you pitch any of these shows and say, this is an absolute crime, this is good, this is solid, this should have been picked up? Or did you walk away saying, they're right, it's not ready?
I don't know. I think I just constantly am sort of coming up with things, so it didn't necessarily hurt, and there wasn't anything that I felt like I was wronged that it wasn't picked up. There's a few things to this day that I still think are valid, and, when the time comes, maybe they'll come back, but...
You have to have a tremendous amount of clout now after some success. Can't you simply, pick these up and go back, or is it a process?
It's... I still feel like there are sort of walls between children's TV animation, which is where I work, and say primetime TV animation. Definitely easier to get meetings with people, but it's not like I can just walk in and be like, "This is what we're doing, folks."
If you were to start pitching something, just to give the audience an idea and give myself some kind of idea, how many targets are there? In other words, you got Disney, you got Cartoon Network. Is there a list of 50, 100, 25, 10?
Maybe 10. Maybe
10.
Yeah, like I said, feature is sort of its own thing, and to get your own feature, I think would be quite a feat. So just as far as TV goes, you've got the primetime TV like Fox and the kids TV like Disney, Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, and both of those areas are expanding, and I feel like there's other outlets coming up all the time. There's Spike's doing animation, MTV occasionally does animation, so.
More and more. I mean, FX has I noticed they have a couple of shows. Archer.
Oh yeah, FX.
Yeah, Unsupervised. It's another one of theirs. Mm-hmm. There's a tremendous amount of programming coming up, original content coming up, and it's coming up in animation. Is it? Well, you said before that it's cheaper to do, but it takes longer. It takes longer to produce than live stuff. It's got to be the interest. It's got to be the tremendous amount of interest, and I would have to believe that The Simpsons really got that ball rolling.
Oh yeah, yeah. I don't know how many seasons they have now, but it's insane.
Yeah. It's been around a very long time. Were you a fan?
Yeah, I think I fell off somewhere in the 2005 range, but definitely it was a favorite show for a long time.
Yeah, and early Simpsons?
Yeah, I can remember watching those Tracy Ullman and shorts. Yeah.
Yeah, how old were you when The Simpsons came out?
I was probably in junior high or high school. I can't remember exactly.
See, I have to believe that without The Simpsons, there might not be a Billy and a Mandy, or there might not be, well, certainly the Seth MacFarlane stuff. I mean, that was groundbreaking.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think something that does that well, that's animated, that does absolutely help the industry as a whole.
It's interesting that you say that. I mean, do the artists get that? Do they cheer on something, whether they like the creator or not? Do they cheer it on, saying, this could be good? Are they sophisticated enough in general?
Yeah, there's a lot of people I know, that'll, have a grudge against somebody on some show somewhere, but they'll still be rooting for the show because it really does, benefit everybody if there's multiple places you can work. So,
let's talk about the history of your great success and the grim adventures of Billy and Mandy. Give us the origins.
Like I was saying, it's the Billy and Mandy both came from a college film I did. I ended up working them into another pitch that I showed to Cartoon Network called Milkman, which was a superhero, and he was basically a milk carton, and he would find missing children by looking in a mirror on the back of his head. And I was told immediately, like, missing children are not cool for kids' TV.
Yeah, I was going to say
so yeah.
That sounds taboo right away.
So I sort of went back to the drawing board, but Billy and Mandy sort of stood out, I think, during that pitch, so I decided to move them to the forefront, and just started coming up with stories involving those two, and it just seemed like it was missing something, so I'm not sure what inspired me to put the Grim Reaper in there. I think I just a love of pushing people's buttons, or I don't know. But I threw him in, and I thought, this is never going to go either, and through some bizarre twist of fate, they were like, okay, Grim Reaper, fine.
How many turndowns did you get on it beforehand?
Actually, only one. I took it to...
Who turned it down?
Nickelodeon. They said because it had the Grim Reaper, they didn't want to touch it. And I figured I'd get the same response from Cartoon Network, but all I got was, well, we need to make sure it's okay that he can carry a scythe, but otherwise he's fine.
Why would that be an issue?
I don't know, really, if it was just the fact that, if he's holding the scythe, he is the Grim Reaper, and if he doesn't, he's not. I'm not sure where that came from. And
how soon did they decide, yeah, you can do this?
It didn't take too long. I think they had a week of focus testing, and, I assured him that, he wasn't going to be actively murdering people.
Which isn't true. He's used it quite a bit, right?
I don't know. I mean, we deal with the underworld, but, we were sort of forbidden from saying the words kill or death not as a name, as the Grim Reaper's name. But it was always sort of a touchy thing, but I think around the second season we sort of figured out where the borders were. And then, you could do fun things where the underworld is populated with monsters, so you can bring out monsters, but there was no sort of touching on, the afterlife or any of that.
Did you get any heat from, I don't know, the right, the right or religious groups saying, look, this is wrong, you're having death around children's cartoon? Did you get it?
If any of that happened, I had some very nice executives who, some of whom I'm friends with to this day, and I know that there have been a few times when they said, "Oh, we got some ridiculous thing, you don't want to see it," and I never really heard anything like that. There's been a few times over the years when there will be somebody on an internet forum somewhere that doesn't like it just because it's got a skeleton in it, but.
Yeah, well, I mean, internet, anyone can just get on there and be a keyboard commando, but you didn't get protests or anything along those lines.
Oh, no.
Do you think you would have 10 years before?
Maybe. I really don't know. At the time I was so shocked that I was being allowed to have the Grim Reaper as a cartoon character that I think I just decided to roll with it.
When did you find out that they were going to pick it up?
There was a sort of a stunt they did called the Big Pick Weekend. And they produced about 12 or 15 shorts and selected their favorite 3, and those 3 sort of went up against each other on the air, and the audience could call in and vote, so I was lucky enough to be the one that they picked.
What were the other 2?
There was a cartoon called Long Hair and Double Dome, and another called Whatever Happened to Robot Jones, which the Robot Jones they also ended up making into a series.
What was it called? Robot Jones?
Yeah, Whatever Happened to Robot Jones.
No kidding. Same company, Cartoon Network.
Mm-hmm.
When we come back, more with Maxwell Atoms, and we're going to ask you what your turning point was in your career.
Oh, boy.
We'll be back.
Turning Point with Frank MacKay is brought to you by Atlantic Honda, New York's Auto Giant, and Herman Katz, Kanjimi and Klein, property tax attorneys and advisors.
Emblem Health is putting care first every day, helping members stay healthy, get well, and live better. To learn more about Emblem Health, call CAI, insurance professionals for over 50 years, at 800-427-5358 or visit emblemhealth-cai.com. That's 800-427-5358. Emblem Health, what care feels like. Coverage underwritten by Group Health Incorporated, Health Insurance Plan of Greater New York, and HIP Insurance Company of New York.
Turning Point is brought to you by PC Wealth Management of Morgan Stanley Smith Barney and the law firm of Duffy & Duffy, protecting the victims of medical error.
We are back with Maxwell Atoms. At this point, Maxwell, let me ask you, what was the turning point in your career?
Oh, geez. I'd like to think it hasn't happened yet, but I would guess it's when Billy and Mandy, got put into series.
When that happened, how far from the pitch date to the actual start date, how much time was in between?
Probably almost a year. Things were moving kind of slow at that time, and like I said, I was just mailing things back and forth to Atlanta, so, I pitched it, I did a few revisions, sent it off, and figured I'd never hear anything back again because about 6 months passed. And then one day they just called and said, "Hey, we're going to do the pilot."
Were you working? Were you broke? I mean, what was?
No, I was still working on Cow and Chicken at that point.
Oh, so all right. So you had a living. Mm-hmm. How many years on Cow and Chicken?
I think about 3 total.
How many years on Fish Hooks?
It's going to be 3 coming up pretty soon, I think.
If you had to go back to the very beginning of your career, when you're interning, really that's the start of your career, right? When you're interning. Mm-hmm. If you can go back and talk to that young individual, what would you tell him that you know now could save you a lot of times, a lot of effort?
That's a good question. Honestly, I'd probably tell myself not to overthink it and not to do anything differently, because I feel like, things lined up for me just about perfectly without a whole lot of me pushing, so...
You've lived a charmed life.
I have.
That's not bad. You've lived a charmed life, and you've done what you what you wanted to do? You still like it?
I do. Definitely there's days when it seems like a job, and there's days when it seems like play, and I think any number of days when it seems like a job is worth it for that one day of play. So.
Are you making decisions on content?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's what you do as an executive producer. Mm-hmm. How did Fishhooks come about?
Fishhooks was created by Noah Z. Jones, who was a children's book illustrator out in Maine, and he tells it better, but one day he got bored and put up this website called Almost Naked Animals, which was just these silly drawings of animals in underwear. And Disney Development somehow found that website and said, hey, you want to pitch us something? So Noah came up with 2 or 3 ideas, one of which was Fishhooks, and that went through the development mill for a good long while, developed by Bill Reese, who's one of our directors now. And I've lost focus.
Yeah, that's all right. What's the difference between working for Disney and Cartoon Network?
Disney is great in that they will absolutely back the show 100%. There's a lot more red tape and a lot more bureaucracy, and you can feel that, but it's totally worth it, because you do get that backing. Cartoon Network was very much more just by the seat of your pants, guerrilla style, get it done by any means necessary. And there's days that I do miss just being able to walk into a room and say, this is what I'm doing, and do it and have it, seen through. Some days I miss that, but on the other hand, they were pretty poor about supporting the shows after launch. So,
is there anything you passed on that you look back in retrospect, say, boy, I should have taken that. It would have changed everything.
A job that I passed on? No, not really. I've honestly spent most of my career doing Billy and Mandy. It's unusual.
How many years?
It was about 7 years, and that's really unusual.
It's a good time. That's a long time.
On one hand, I was employed for 7 years, which is fantastic. On the other hand, it took 7 years to make, 76 half hours, which that's way too long for that sort of thing. But
is it quicker for other people?
Yeah, it was just at the time Cartoon Network was really gun shy, and to some degree I feel like they still are, about picking up large orders. So our first season was 6 half hours. You get through the season, you lose your entire crew, you don't know what's going to happen. One day they call up and say, oh, hey, we're making 6 more. Now you just do that for 2 or 3 years, and then finally they were like, okay, well, now it's a real series, so here's 22 half hours.
What happens with the DVD sales? You get paid on that?
Yeah, they've made 1 DVD. I'm hoping someday they'll make more.
The series isn't in...
No, I think you can get it on iTunes, but it's as a series. It's not out on DVD.
Why is that?
You'd have to ask Cartoon Network that one.
Don't you call up and say, hey guys, let's put this out?
It's actually a very different studio from when I was there. They had a big management changeover, and actually at one point they decided they weren't doing animation anymore. If people have been paying attention to Cartoon Network over the last 5 years, they've just been sort of all over the map.
You mean they haven't done animation in-house, or they haven't done animation?
They're doing it again now, but I think the initial pendulum swing was, okay, we don't want to do animation anymore. We want to be more competitive with Nickelodeon and Disney, so we need more live action stuff. So they produced a bunch of live action, and I guess that didn't work, so they swung the other way, and they said, well now we're going to do more stuff like Adult Swim, sort of age it up, do older cartoons, and then, well, that didn't work, so now we're going to do younger stuff. So it's all the whims of whoever's controlling things over there, I suppose.
Where do you go from here? What's next for Maxwell Atoms?
Definitely, I'm very into doing my own thing. So I've got a few irons in the fire. There's something I have in development here that I probably can't talk about. But very, very.
When you say here, you mean Disney?
Disney, yes.
Feature length?
No, it's another TV series. So that's hopefully going to be turned into a pilot sometime soon. Excited about that. And there's a sort of a personal project I'm working on, hopefully getting that done in the next year.
We have been with Maxwell Atoms, an animator, well, no longer an animator, an executive producer. He's a suit now that doesn't wear a suit. And you don't wear a suit, do you?
I like suits, actually.
Do you? Okay, right.
I'm not normal suits. I feel like everything I wear is a little tongue-in-cheek, but...
Hey, Mandy and Billy, characters there. Who did you base them on? Do you have friends?
I think, everybody says that when you're doing, any sort of art, it's just a reflection of yourself, and definitely both of those characters are very much a part of my personality. I think also a part of it came out of getting married very young and just having this...
Did you get married young?
I did, when I was 19.
You still married?
No.
You have kids?
Nope.
No kids, but you were married.
Yep.
19 years old, you're young to get married, that's for sure.
I learned a lot.
Yeah.
I won't get married at 19 again, I'll tell you that.
Mandy never smiles. Was that you as a married man not smiling?
To some degree, yeah. That actually came from when I was a child. My parents used to call me the little Russian boy because I never smiled. And
You smile all the time now.
I do. I smile if I'm nervous. I smile if I'm happy. It doesn't really matter. I'll smile.
Well, it's good.
Yeah.
It's good. In closing, advice to kids, young people that want to get involved, whoever he or she may be listening to you right now, or their parents giving them advice on getting into the animation business.
I feel like with animation and with anything that you really feel passionate about, if you just sort of really dedicate yourself to that path and follow your dream, like something will come of it. And I feel like especially these days with the internet, there's no excuse not to just do something. Like I'm sort of a DIY man in a corporate world, and I feel like now there's never been a better time just to put yourself out there. So I feel like with all the technology and with the internet, you can make your own film for nothing and put it out there, and at least people will be able to hear your voice.
Good advice. Again, Maxwell Atoms, thank you for being here, and thank all of you for listening.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you. We'll be back next week with Turning Point. Please tune in.
Turning Point with Frank MacKay was produced by Out of the Box Studios in Bohemia, New York. Executive producers Frank MacKay, Harry Oates, and Bart Pellegrino. Director of Operations Corey Arnold. Segment producer and talent coordinator Kristen McKay. Audio and studio engineers Francis Kazmarek and Tom Shazano. Studio support Mark Harwood, Pete Galgano, Brian Hunt, Danielle Altabrando, Keith Withers, and Chris Lumen. Sound mixing and mastering Daniel Joseph. Hotel accommodations provided by Ohika Castle Hotel and Estate in Huntington, New York. Transportation services provided by Mark of Elegance Limousine in Hoppock, New York. Catering services provided by Windows on the Lake in Ronkonkoma, New York.